Welcome back, folks. Homeland Security. The exodus of Gitmo continues as the president expands, releasing more terrorists. The sharp rise in crime, some very violent crime, committed by illegals comes headfirst in Congress. I guess they're just committing the crimes that Americans won't. Let's talk about that first, Maury. We've just had a congressional hearing to listen to some of these families that have had their family members tortured, murdered, raped, just unbelievable, unspeakable atrocities committed by people that shouldn't have been here in the first place, and yet we continue to let them come in. This is almost an expansion of where we left off in the last segment, but we are becoming a country that almost every single state is going to be a border state pretty soon, if you know what I mean.
Well, you have the sanctuary cities, where if somebody has committed a crime against the United States or people in the United States, they can find sanctuary in San Francisco, they can find it in Los Angeles, they can find it in
New York.
De
Blasio just made it a sanctuary city.
Well, New York?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
You may want to Google that and fact check it, but
Well, you might
I'm pretty
be right.
sure.
Well, there are a number of, look, let's face it, I'm going to say it again. There are 3 states in this country today that I call People's Republics, and I say that with
California,
California,
New York,
yeah,
Illinois.
and exactly, because they are not protecting the American citizens against the invasion of people that want them harmed. That's the basic bottom line. The people that come here, because of whether it's their religious persuasion, whether the fact that they believe that it's their right to do certain things, it doesn't make any difference. When somebody commits a crime by American standards and then is put in jail overnight and then is let go the next day and then he kills somebody, well, then and if they're not caught, they can get sanctuary in these cities, in the areas, especially around the California.
Just like what happened to Kate Steinle up in San Francisco.
Perfect example right now. That woman died because of the sanctuary city basis, and nothing is being done. When you think about it.
As a matter of fact, things are being done. The Department of Homeland Security is being required to let these people go. And we can't even keep the numbers on them. We have a catch and release where if you catch someone coming in illegally and then release them back into the country, you're supposed to report on it. We don't even keep these numbers anymore.
Yeah, that's where things start degenerating, because they happen little by little by little, and then in the culmination of all these facts.
And this story goes back 2 years that ISIS has training camps on the border. 8 miles from the American border, ISIS has training camps. We found Qurans, we found Islamic graffiti, we found all kinds of stuff.
Well, you know what it is? All the basic pressure out of Congress today is on Dodd-Frank, and make it more difficult for businesses to be in business, hire people to do a lot of the paperwork. You've got the EPA, I keep repeating, the Environmental Protection Agency is America's Gestapo, because they can do anything. They destroyed the whole coal industry, by the way.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a champion of coal, but the coal has a certain amount of, let's say, anti-climatological aspects to it. But the point is, you don't put 90,000 people out of work overnight just in order to prove your point. And Appalachia, which includes Virginia, West Virginia, parts of Kentucky, parts of Ohio, and those people are being put out of good jobs. And coal, at one time, was about 2/3 of all the firing power needed by American utilities. Now it's down to 1/3, and all new additions and new utility facilities cannot call for coal as a powering fossil fuel. So, now they're attacking the mines even. Before it was just the product itself.
And now you get to the Department of the Interior, and they start to take over land, and then they start to make historical sites. Do you know that the federal government controls or owns over 80% of Nevada?
Well, I think I even mentioned that once, that 2/3 of all the land west of the Mississippi is owned by the government. But you know what really saddened me? Maybe it's because I knew the company very well when I lived in southern Illinois. Peabody. Peabody Coal Company was one of the 10 leading companies of all types in the United States if you go back 40, 50 years ago. Now it's bankrupt. They are living on fumes, and they'll probably go out of business.
The president told us back in '08 that he was going to bankrupt the coal industry.
Well, he's doing
and
it.
That our energy prices were necessarily going to
Nobody is
skyrocket.
stopping him. That's the worst part of it. Frankly, I got to tell you something. I am totally disappointed in the weakness of the Republican Party in the House and in the Senate.
Inept. Speaking of changing and fundamentally changing the country, now the exodus continues at Guantanamo Bay. Now we're sending back another 9 terrorists to Saudi Arabia, which I'm sure they're going to have our best interest in, in Saudi Arabia.
Of course.
What happens when they start to release these prisoners to American soil or put them into American courts to be tried under our system?
Oh, they'll get away with murder, literally and figuratively.
How do you feel about what's happening down with Guantanamo Bay?
Well, I think this is the most terrible thing that ever happened. If there was some replacement someplace else, it'd be one thing. But I think it goes back to the situation at Fort Hood, when 13 Americans were killed by this crazy major.
Nadal Hassan.
Abu Allah.
Abu Akbar.
Yeah, and our president won't even admit that he was doing this as an Islamic madman.
He was signing his paperwork. He was a physician. He was signing his paperwork, Allahu Akbar, for months and months and months before this happened. So you tell me there's no red flags?
The president called it a workplace incident.
Workplace violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if it's anything that proves what side he's on in this war that we are fighting in the Middle East today, this is a good example of it right now.
And I'm not only concerned about the jobs that we're losing and the people that are coming in and taking the low entry-level jobs, but the people that are coming in that have bad intentions that are just assimilating into that group of people crossing the border. And like I said, we've got Qurans and we've got Islamic graffiti 8 miles from the United States border. And people want to give Trump a hard time for wanting to build a wall. Do you know that that's part of a congressional bill that was signed, I think it was 12 years ago? That's already a law on the books.
And let's repeat what you said. To criticize Islam is considered a crime today. I mean, it's a crime. You can, if you put in writing something negative about Islam, you can be sued.
But all these people, all these on the left, most of the time, that complain, oh, Trump's a racist because he wants to build a wall. That's part of a bill that was passed already. It's already on the books. So where's the racism come from?
Well, you see, if you go back, the last time we had a solid government that did things, first of all, set up a tax code that made some sense at the time, set up a code as far as giving freedom to some of the people that came in and letting them sue, or not sue, but ask for citizenship. It was during the Reagan administration. The 8 years of the Reagan administration was the last time we had a solid administration that had the good and will of the United States in their desire. I think the Clinton administration did a pretty good job economically speaking. But as far as the interest of America, I think we've fallen down dramatically since the 80s.
And, you talk about the Clinton administration. You also had Newt Gingrich, who was a very, very strong leader as far as leading the House of...
Yeah, as Speaker.
Yeah, as Speaker of the House. That was on the other side, kind of balancing out Clinton. We don't have that today, and we haven't had that for quite a while.
Even with Reagan, you had Tip O'Neill, a Democrat, and they worked together. And they really, the aisle crossing was very normal during the Reagan years, and they worked everything out together, and they made a huge amount of headway.
The whole country has been dragged to the left. Both parties have been dragged to the left.
Well, I don't. Whether it's left, it's worse than that. I think we have lost our value system completely.
Shouldn't the value system be the Constitution of the United
Yes.
States?
Yes.
Isn't that where we start out from? That's our mooring, the Constitution?
We're the only country in the world that has lived by its Constitution since its very inception. And we are making a joke out of it with these executive orders that are coming out of the White House. This man is running this country like a dictator, and again, nobody's doing anything to stop him.
That's the thing, is that nobody is stopping him. Nobody has stopped him. Nobody will stop him. Nobody wants to stop him.
Yeah, and I think this is showing up in this election today. I think the establishment of the Republican Party is more worried about getting a guy like Trump in there because some of the guys that they have running the show may lose their jobs.
Yeah, he's a wild card. He's going to go after both of them.
That's right. They can't